Hello, it's Darlene here. I hope that you're having a good day despite the uncertainty that we're all facing in the coronavirus. I wanted to talk to you today about the power of our mind. Our mind is like a magical superpower, and if we can gain control over our mind and our thoughts in particular, it can change the entire direction of our lives. Many people think negative thoughts most of the time, and what that does in our brain is it creates like a road through our brain, a physical road in our brain. And the more we think negative thoughts over and over again, the wider and the deeper that road gets of negative thinking. And you tend to go down that path more readily when something happens in life. But if you can choose to think positive thoughts on purpose, it can build a brand new road, a physical new pathway in your brain, which the more that you choose to think those positive thoughts, the road becomes deeper and wider and deeper and wider. And the negative road becomes shallower and skinnier, and you're far less likely to go down that negative path and more likely to go down the positive path. One thing that can really help is to take notice of the internal dialogue that we've all got running through our brains 24/7, and even write down some of the things that you notice that you're thinking, and particularly if they're negative, write down those negative thoughts and think to yourself, what's the opposite of this negative thought? I'm going to think the opposite of that. And so write down a positive thought that can actually replace the negative thought. And we actually believe our own voice more than we believe anyone else's. So the next time you catch yourself thinking these negative thoughts, say out loud, no, I'm not going to think that negative thought. I'm going to deliberately think this positive thought on purpose. And therefore, you'll be rewiring your brain to reduce that negative pathway in your brain and greatly increase the positive pathway in your brain. So I've just put together some examples in relation to the coronavirus that I hope are helpful. For example, you might be thinking, I'm worried and I'm going to get the coronavirus. But instead of that, you can think, I'm taking care of my body. I'm being as healthy as I can. I'm exercising. I'm trying not to eat too much sugar or alcohol or processed food, that type of thing. I'm trying to be as strong as I can be to get through this crisis. I'm based in Australia, and I'm very glad to be in Australia. Apparently we have the highest proportion of testing rates in the world, and 99% of people tested have come back negative. So that's really encouraging for those of us who are in Australia. Most people that get the virus have just travelled or have come into direct contact with someone with the virus. So, maybe you haven't travelled recently and you can think, well, I haven't been travelling. And to the best of my knowledge, I have not come into direct contact with someone with the virus. It's unlikely that I'll catch the virus. You might be thinking, what if I get sick and die? But think to yourself that many, many people who catch the virus only have mild symptoms, and most of them make a full recovery. Choose to think positive thoughts. Trust that you will be okay. Another negative thought you might be thinking is, I'm so worried we're going to run out of medical supplies. But instead of thinking that, you can think, well, many manufacturers around the world have stopped making what they usually make and are instead manufacturing the medical supplies that we desperately need. It's unlikely that we'll run out of these supplies. You might say to yourself, well, I've just lost my job. I have no money. And of course, this is more than just a negative thought. This is a tragic reality that so many of us are facing. My husband is one of those people who lost his job, and we're facing this along with many of you. But you can still choose to think positive things. You can think, well, there are government benefits being put in place that will help support our family through this time. There are many not-for-profits and charities that are out there that provide food and clothing. They can pay for medicines, they can help pay for bills. And I know it can be embarrassing to ask for that help when you've not needed it ever before. A few years ago, I had this same situation. I'd always had my own money and been working, and at this time I didn't. I needed the help, and I just had to bite the bullet and go in and get the help I needed. It gives you more empathy about what people go through who need these services. So don't be embarrassed. Choose to be brave and just to go and get the help that you need. Remember that you're not alone. We are all in this together. Another example of a negative thought might be, will the world ever recover? But if you think back to World War One and World War Two, the 1930s depression and the global financial crisis, I'm sure in the middle of those situations, people thought, will we ever recover? But we did. The world did recover. We recovered. So this will go away in time. We will recover. So I hope that's offered you some hope today. I hope that as you reflect on those positive statements, you can really reduce your levels of stress and anxiety and increase your levels of peace. So I hope that gives you some hope today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.